Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For cables, connectors, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by the Ham Station. Get your new radio or antenna by calling 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com. Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for Ham Talk Live. It's episode number 83, the HandiHams, recorded live on Thursday, September 28th, 2017. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight, we're joined by Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, from the Courage Kenny HandiHam program. And we'll talk about how they bring ham radio to people with disabilities and some of the resources they have. And we'll take your questions by telephone and by Skype Live in just a few minutes. Well, last week here on the show, Scott Westerman, W9WSW, was here. And he's from Michigan State and was talking about public relations for ham radio. And also the Great Lakes HamCon coming up here in just another week or so. And we talked a little bit about the CARI, the ARRL College Amateur Radio Initiative. So if you missed that, make sure you check that out. Just go to hamtalklive.com and you can play that. And we are also on the podcasts. So if you get your favorite podcast app, like iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud, iHeart Podcasts. We're on all of those, and we're also over on YouTube and some others. Pick it up as well, Overcast and some of those. So make sure you check that out. Well, just before we take our break here and talk to Lucinda, just wanted to say Godspeed to the crew of 50 ham radio volunteers that just arrived in Puerto Rico a few hours ago to help the American Red Cross with disaster communications over there. And our prayers are with all of the victims of the recent hurricanes and those who are volunteering to help bring things back to some kind of order. So, Val's over there and Andy's over there and some others. And so, we want to have a safe trip for them and hope to hear them and they can do some good work and get home soon. So keep them in your prayers and hopefully they can do a lot of good over there in Puerto Rico, and they've been getting a lot of press coverage lately with that too. So be sure to watch social media and some of the websites for the latest updates. Health and welfare, health and welfare traffic has been pretty busy, and so there's some suggested ways to do that, and some ways that you can help. So keep an eye on that and give them a hand. Well, let's talk about giving people with disabilities a hand with HandiHams. Get your questions ready to go, and we'll open up the phone lines after we talk to Lucinda, but let me go ahead and give you that phone number so you can have it. We'd love for you to call in and ask questions or comment tonight. That phone number is 812-NET-HAM1. It's 638-4261, or you can Skype us. We're Ham Talk Live on Skype and also on Twitter. You can tweet us. Twitter handle is at Ham Talk Live. So we'd love to hear from you tonight. So we'll give you a chance to do that. But first, we'll talk to Lucinda and let you get familiar with HandiHams if you're not already. And we'll do that right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you in part by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's Dime store since 1978. When you need connectors, mobile and handheld antennas, cables, or adapters, visit Scott or Jill at a Hamfest near you. Or you can order online at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and N connectors, SMA adapters, audio cables, soldering supplies, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated N connectors are even used on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics carries MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro products. And don't miss their 0% off sale going on now. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com. Proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
We're not sure what's up with the fifth dentist, but 4 out of 5 dentists recommend listening to Ham Talk Live.
Thanks once again to Scott and Jill at Tower Electronics for sponsoring the show tonight. They're back out on the road again, helping bring you Ham Talk Live. They're in Belton, Texas on October the 7th. And then they'll be down in Melbourne, Florida on the Space Coast, October 13th and 14th. You can give them a call if you're not going to be at one of those ham fests. It's 920-435-2973. Or you can visit them online, pl-259.com. And tell them you heard it on Ham Talk Live and give Scott a hard time for me. Well, anyway, we're on the air here on Ham Talk Live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at hamtalklive.com, and also on those podcast things, so check that out. Well, on June 26th, Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, became the program coordinator for the Courage Kenny HandiHam program, taking over for Patrick Tice, who retired after 25 years of service. Lucinda holds an extra class amateur radio license and has been a HandiHam volunteer since 2011. She has served as an instructor at several radio camps and worked with HandiHam members online. Outside of the HandiHam program, she served as a volunteer coordinator for local Salvation Army emergency disaster services, including incident command, communication specialist, and recruitment and training of volunteers. And this year, HandiHams is celebrating their 50th anniversary. So we want to talk about that a little bit. And she let the choir out early tonight to be on the show, so we appreciate that. And Lucinda, welcome.
Well, thank you. I don't know if the choir's happy or sad about getting out early, but thankfully they worked with me.
Yeah, we're trying to schedule it, and it was like, well, we got choir practice starting. we gotta do that. So thank you for rearranging things a little bit to come on the show. So 50 years of service. So tell us how this all got started.
Well, 50 years ago, so 1967, if you can believe that, Ned Carmen, he was W0ZSW, and that is a call sign that the HandiHam Club still has, was working with people in Rochester who had disabilities. And he realized something was missing. Yes, there was lots of services for people with disabilities, but there wasn't things that involved a social hobby. You know, that's the part that was not there. And so he realized amateur radio would work. Amateur radio would allow people to be identified by a call sign instead of disability. And so he enlisted the Sisters of St. Francis to help him out, and that included Sister Alverna. Lots of people who know the history of the program know her. She was WA0SGI, and she was one of the former education coordinators for the HandiHam program. So, it kind of started Rochester. It seemed like it was just going to be a little program, and word started spreading. And, some of the things that you think are going to be little don't stay that way. And the HandiHam program was one of them. It quickly got bigger than they could handle. They didn't have the infrastructure to deal with what was happening, and so they sought help from the Minnesota Society for Crippled Children and Adults, and that's what later became Courage Center. And at that point, they just helped with money and equipment, kind of given a little bit of help in the background. But as the HandiHam program spread, not just in Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin area, but throughout the Midwest and then throughout the world, it was clear they needed a whole lot more help, and that's where it became an official Courage Center program. And so the Minnesota HandiHam system, which is what it was known as back then, merged with Courage Center. How it got to where it is now in 2013, Courage Center then merged with Sister Kenny Rehabilitation Institute. The two had worked together quite a bit over the years, so this was a natural merger to take place. And then because Allina Health already had a relationship with Sister Kenny Rehabilitation Institute, the HandiHam program essentially then became part of Allina Health. So currently we're housed under the Assistive Technology Department, which is a really great fit with amateur radio, because when we need assistance in making amateur radio technology available to people with specific disabilities, they're the right people to help.
Very good. Well, I've remembered HandiHam since I was a kid. We had some people who were blind and wanted to get into ham radio, and so we modified, some of the Morse code testing and helped some of those people become licensed, and HandiHams was there to give some assistance. And just a couple of years ago, right here in Bloomington, we had someone that needed some assistance like that, and was able to get a radio and get some help. So it's been a great 50 years of assistance, and it's grown. And so now you're actually under like a medical group. Then is that what the Allina Health is?
Yes, Allina Health runs hospitals and clinics throughout Minnesota and western Wisconsin. So it's quite a big organization, which is nice because we can kind of lean on them for some assistance as well.
Very good. Well, tell us what kinds of services you have for people with different disabilities, and what you all do.
Well, interestingly enough, as with just coming on, I've been doing interviews and talking with members to find out what they wanted, because the program was basically in limbo for about 18 months between when the previous person retired and I came on. And the most popular thing is the weekly e-letter, which is also made into a podcast. People really look forward to that. We provide that to anyone who requests. You do not have to be a member to get that. What we do have also is a large section in our website that is members only, and there we're able to put things like training materials, tutorials, things that will help people get their license, develop operating skills, that kind of thing. One of the big things is that about 2/3 of our members are blind or visually impaired. So our website is really aimed at being accessible for them, while we serve people with any type of disability. we kind of have a niche market there because there aren't a lot of other resources for people who are blind. So we have everything recorded, we have pictures described. Our tutorials, we try to have members that are blind do those, because somebody who has lived it will do a better job at making a tutorial for somebody else who is living that experience, and making that available to people. Also, there's a email list for members who choose to be part of the HandiHam Radio Club, where they can talk to each other and say, hey, this radio is accessible, or this radio, if you do this, you can make this modification, and now this will work, and that kind of thing, where people can help each other. We do offer licensed class study materials for technician, general, and extra. We cover a lot of different topics in operating skills. And we run a daily net, actually sponsored by the HandiHam Radio Club. And the purpose there is to give people an opportunity to get experience on the air in a safe environment. We don't run a highly structured net or one that's meant to be intimidating to people. We want people to feel welcome and enjoy being social on it. That's, like I said earlier, an important thing for people with disabilities. We refer people to local clubs, helping them find clubs in their area that they may not be aware of. And one of the things that we're working on bringing back is Radio Camp. That's very popular with a lot of different members. And it serves an important part of giving us the chance to have one-on-one assistance for people, that chance for people to get their hands on a radio that maybe they were thinking about, but they're not really sure, and have a chance to try it out, a chance to learn some on-air skills with somebody right there to help you. And so we're working on bringing that back, hopefully next year. And I get a lot of requests every week about, are you bringing Radio Camp back? So we're working on it. The equipment loan program, again, we're having to kind of reinvent that. Years ago, when the HandiHam program had 5 staff, we could have that all in-house. And now it's me and Nancy, our secretary, and there's only so many hours in a week. We can only get so much done. So working on getting the equipment loan program back up and running, but using multiple volunteers in multiple locations so that we can still serve members and get them what they need, and also provide a place for people that want to donate their old equipment.
Okay, very good. Now, I'm presuming, with your visually impaired, you're looking for radios that have some kind of definite feel to them, and more knobs and less buttons, and has that frequency readout that will, tell you what frequency you're on and speak it, rather than just a display. Do you have like a list of radios that are more accessible to those people?
We kind of know. I mean, at this point, Kenwood has basically the most accessible radios of any of the manufacturers. We're hoping to get some of the others on board. We'd really like to see that. Obviously, a touchscreen radio doesn't work that well for a person who's blind, but there are some adaptive equipment that we can get for them. So there's still even some options there. It's been interesting to see some of these new, cheaper radios are actually decently accessible. But then I will tell you the latest and greatest HT out of Kenwood is the most accessible thing I've ever seen. You can power it up. If you hold the pound key down and you power it up, it comes up talking. So I tell people, if you have an option, that's a great radio to get if you're visually impaired. And obviously we have people with other disabilities, and that's where sometimes we come up with things like adaptive switches that they can access, things like sip and puff keyers to allow people to do Morse code where they aren't able to use their hands. We had one guy years ago that sent Morse code with his foot, and a very large keyer was made that he could use with his foot. So there you go.
Yeah, great. Well, let's tell people how to get in touch with you if they have a need or need to be, referred to the program, or if they want to refer someone or maybe donate equipment. Let's tell them how to do that.
Well, you can always phone the program. You can reach us at 612-775-2291. That'll get you to Nancy, who can then pass you on to me if necessary, or some of the stuff she can just handle as far as donations, getting people set up with a membership, that kind of thing. Membership in the program is extremely affordable at $12 a year. You just can't beat it. And we've done that to make it affordable for people with disabilities, because we don't want people to be left out. You can always reach me via email at lucinda.moody@allina.com. That Allina is ALLINA. And we get packages in the mail, so I'll give you the mailing address because people just package up equipment and send it, so it does happen. Our mail route is 78446, and if you don't put that on there, the packages go somewhere in Allina but don't get to us very quickly. But our address is 3915 Golden Valley Road in Golden Valley, Minnesota, and our zip is 55422.
Okay, and you said the website has a members-only portion and a public portion, correct?
Correct. You can always, anyone can go to handiham.org and check out the public portion. There's all of our e-letters are up there and announcements for people and whatnot you'll find there. But when you want to get into things like the study materials and that kind of thing, then you need a membership so that you can get into the members only section.
Okay, very good. And then how can HAMS help? You mentioned, donating equipment, and you're looking for some of that that you can make use of one way or another. But are there other ways that HAMS can volunteer and help your organization?
Well, one of the things is get your local club to become a HandiHam affiliate. That means that we know that we can refer our members to your club. You have people in your club that are willing to Elmer people and take the time, have the patience to work with people who have different abilities, maybe need different type of assistance than they're used to giving to someone. So we're looking for that, kind of spreading that out so that lots of people can be there to help. Also with volunteering, putting together things like a radio camp or dealing with donated equipment. We need lots of people that like to play with donated equipment, or maybe even make a trip to radio camp and come and help us out for a week. So there's also, in volunteering, we need people to read materials that'll be put on the members only section of the website. So if you got a good voice and you like to record yourself, we got a job for you. We can always use you as a volunteer. So, and of course, if you got money that you just don't know what to do with, we take that too.
Yeah, I would presume that you would, so that's a good deal. All right, well, there you've got a snapshot of what HandiHams does, and by the way, that's HandiHam, HandiHam, and that's .com, right?
HandiHam.org is our website.
Okay, .org, yeah. Okay, very good. Well, you can check that out and get some more information. But now we're going to give you a chance to call in and ask right now. So, again, the phone number is 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261, or you can Skype us or give us a tweet at Ham Talk Live, and you can ask your questions right now with Lucinda Moody, AB8WF. She's the program coordinator of the Courage Kenny HandiHam program. And we'll be back with her to take your calls right after this from the Ham Station, right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by the Ham Station. For over 37 years, the Ham Station has sold new and used radios, antennas, accessories, and equipment to hams everywhere. Give Dan or Jeff a call at 800-729-4373 or order online at hamstation.com. Ham Station carries all the major brands like ICOM, Yaesu, and Kenwood, and they have a wide selection of radio scanners, MFJ accessories, Heil sound products, amplifiers by Mirage and Ameritron, Cushcraft antennas, and more. Easy online ordering is at hamstation.com or call 1-800-729-4373 to place an order and talk it over with the experts. The Ham Station, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
Everyone in the audience on Ham Talk Live today is going to get one of my favorite things. You get a 5-9. You get a 5-9. Everyone gets a 5-9.
Join the conversation. Call us on voice with Skype at Ham Talk Live or give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. The Ham Station has you covered. They've got new equipment, used equipment. Just give them a call. They keep a nice list of their used equipment on the website, hamstation.com. You can check that out. You can also give them a call at 800-729-4373. And make sure you check out Ham Talk Live Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time at hamtalklive.com. And check out our Facebook page, Twitter feed, and Instagram. We try to put some entertaining stuff up there. Just search for Ham Talk Live. So it's time now to take your calls. So if you've been waiting to call, now is the time to do that. If you have a question about HandiHams, give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261, or get on Skype or Twitter and look for Ham Talk Live and send us a message, or give us a call on Skype. Any of those will work. And get to us here as we have Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, with us tonight. So give us a call, 812-638-4261, 812-NET-HAM1. Well, while we're waiting on some of those calls and tweets to come in, I noticed on your website that you do have some remote stations available, and a lot of times, people may not be able to have antennas where they are living, and have some of those challenges, and so the remotes can overcome some of those challenges. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the remotes that you have available?
Well, right now we're running 2 remote base stations. One is located physically in Woodbury, Minnesota, and the other one's up north near Lake George, actually. And like you said, we have a lot of members that have had to move into locations where antennas aren't an option. And so the idea is to come up with something beyond things like Echolink, where someone can actually operate HF, but with the equipment in another location. Right now, the stations unfortunately have limited accessibility for people that are blind. The software that we're using isn't as accessible as we'd like. So we're working on figuring out how to address that, and also looking to test out some other remote base equipment that might be more accessible, just to find out when I moved here, I left a beautiful antenna farm in Michigan, which is really a sad thing, and moved into an apartment out here. So I am working to set up a remote base there to test out some other equipment and see what might be maybe more accessible, see if we can come up with something. And it may be that in the end we actually offer more than one type of remote base for our members so that we have the different types that are more appropriate for different individuals.
All right, very good. So you've got a chance to do that. So even people that are in a nursing home or an assisted living facility and they can't get antennas or an apartment or something where the antennas aren't possible, then you've got this option for them. So some great options there, and hopefully you can keep improving on all of that. The number, again, is 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261. Please give us a call or Skype us or tweet us and ask your questions about HandiHams, or if you know of a situation where there's some assistance needed and there's something you want to ask about that, why, give us a call and we'll see what we can come up with here. Again, that number is 812-638-4261. Well, you mentioned the e-letter that comes out once a week, and then you have that converted into a podcast, and we do that podcast thing too. Not only are we live, but we do a podcast. So tell us about the podcast and where people can listen to that.
Well, actually, if you go to the weekly e-letter, there's always a link to the podcast, and you can also use your favorite podcast catcher to be able to sign up for that to show up automatically. We're still getting some of the technical stuff figured out. Right now, the former coordinator for the HandiHam program is still having to put the stuff up because everything is associated with an email account of his. So we're still working on getting that all moved over where I can have access to it, but he's taking care of that right now in the meantime while we get the logistics of that figured out. And sometimes the podcast has some things that aren't in the weekly e-letter and vice versa. So if you listen and read, you'll find that I refer to things that either are or aren't in one or the other. So you get to hear about it. And for some reason, some people just don't want to read it themselves. They want me to read it to them. So I guess they want to make me work.
Well, the podcast version is always nice because you can listen to it any time, and you can just set it up to automatically download, and then whenever you have the time, you can pop that up, and that's what most of our listeners do. Is they actually listen to the show sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and they can do that automatically on all those podcasts. So it's a good option, and if it's not live and timely and that kind of thing, it's a really good option for getting information out. So we appreciate all of our podcast listeners too, and glad to hear that you have that option available, and that's starting to really take off. So glad you have that. Okay, again, the phone number is 812-638-4261, 812-NET-HAM1, and give us a call or tweet. And we do have a question here from Carl, KD9HQT, on the chat, and says, has HandiHams worked with individuals with developmental disabilities such as autism? Since anybody within the U.S. can be an operator regardless of disability and their interest toward ham radio, if they have the capability to get on the air. So any developmental type things like autism?
Absolutely. Interestingly enough, some people with autism do really well on digital modes. That seems to be something that really piques their interest. You do have to adjust how you teach for that, to work with work with the way that they need to learn. And that's one of the things that we have the ability to do within the program, is to adjust things to teach it in the way that needs to be done for a specific individual. In particular, at camp, we often will pair people one-on-one. In some cases, people with autism do really well simply working with a question pool, and then once they've got that, then we can pair them with somebody to begin to get some understanding of the technology. So you have to take people and kind of assess where they're at, what they want to do, where their interest lies, and then use that to figure out what area of amateur radio would fit best. And one of the nice things about amateur radio is it's a really broad hobby. There's lots of different things that you can do in it, and usually there's something that'll work.
All right, very good. Well, Carl, thanks for sending that question in, KD9HQT, and we can get you some more information on that if you need that. But sounds like there are some things available from HandiHam. So again, check them out at handiham.org. HandiHam.org. And Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, is our guest tonight. Let the choir out a little early to be with us, so we appreciate that. We've got time for another call or two, maybe. So again, 812-638-4261. It spells 812-NET-HAM1. If you have a question for us, or give us a tweet, or if you're on Spreaker, you can get on the chat like Carl did and text something to us there. So let's hear from you. And there's a lot of things that can be done. You mentioned the keyer with the foot. I remember helping a ham again as a child growing up that didn't have much control with his arms and used his foot just as like a straight key, and just had a strap on there and slide the shoe in and send, and really enjoyed code, even though it had to be adapted a little bit. Really enjoyed working CW and doing that. And, again, using the adaptive technologies like the voice synthesizer and knobs that have some, positions to them and things that you can remember and set, really made a big difference. And so HandiHams can help you figure that out as well. And I know the camps are real popular. I've heard about those for a long time. And why don't you kind of talk us through what maybe a typical day at camp would be?
Well, it's probably a little different than the camps you went to as a kid, because we start out in the morning. If you're at Courage North, you usually start out in the dining hall first thing in the morning with coffee and chit-chat with everybody. It's kind of the place to gather early in the morning while you wait for breakfast. And once breakfast is over, classes start. And depending on if you're studying for a license exam, then there will be an intense review that goes on during that week. You are expected to come to camp having already studied, because we can't possibly teach you everything in a week. But we do reviews, offering people the ability to get their hands on stuff that helps them understand the concepts behind amateur radio, what makes things work, and that kind of thing, so that you're not just memorizing answers, and actually developing the ability to understand. And then if you, say, already have whatever license you want and you want to get on the air, we're going to have a class for that. And you may go into a classroom where you work on getting on the air, talking to as many stations as possible, practice calling CQ and see how fast you can build a pile-up, that kind of thing. And then for people that are interested in something else, there will be classes on things like digital modes, maybe building an antenna for direction finding, because, by the way, there is direction finding for people who are blind or visually impaired. And it also can be a handy skill to have in that situation. It's actually saved a few of our members. So you may get into something like antenna building, you may get into something like kit building, maybe even a lecture on more advanced antenna theory, that kind of thing. So depending on where you're at, depends on what class you go to. And you're going to basically be in class till lunch. And then after lunch, that's usually when our volunteers have a break. We'll try to have a couple of volunteers paired with the radio, so if there's somebody that wants to get on during break, they can. Other than that, the rest of the volunteers get a couple hours off to rejuvenate before the afternoon classes start. And in the meantime, there's usually some camp activities. You may go out on the water and operate the radio on a pontoon boat. You might have a chance to just get out and do a little bit with the camp staff, the non-amateur radio staff. And then somewhere 3:30, you're back at it in the classroom. So you're there till supper time. And then after supper, we tend to do things like jam sessions. We have some pretty good musicians in the HandiHam group. And we always encourage people to bring their instruments to radio camp. And so we'll get some pretty good jam sessions going. Usually we try to have a couple volunteers available so people can get on radios if they need assistance there, and kind of get a chance to relax a little bit in the evening before the next morning you start it all over again. So it's a little different in that you do a bunch of work, but people tend to have the time of their life.
Very good. Sounds like a very rewarding experience, and hope that you're able to bring that back soon. So, well, Lucinda, that's going to be it for tonight. But thank you so much for taking time to come on and talk to us about HandiHams. And well, one other thing, I guess, real quick before we go, do you have any big plans for the 50th anniversary celebration?
Well, right now, we've kind of been limited. Normally, we would have had a very large radio camp, but seeing how I just came on this summer, we were way too late to do that. So we're working on celebrating 50 and year 51. And we've been doing a lot in our e-letter, just kind of going back into the archives of the program, letting people read articles that are 20, 30, 40 years old, and that's been kind of fun, too. So, and hopefully, in the next 6 months, we're going to roll out a whole new website. So we'll get some stuff in there for the 50th.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about HandiHams and the services that are available. And again, if you want to check that out, that's HandiHam.org. And you can get a hold of the staff there and get some assistance for some of these things. So thank you for coming on, and that is a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. So thanks to Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening, and to Carl for chatting in this evening. And invite you back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Christian Kudnick, K0STH, the host of 100 Watts and a Wire, will be here, and he's going to talk about Fallout 2. It's the sequel, the second year of the Fallout activity on the air, so that's coming up next weekend. So we'll be talking about that and talk to Christian a little bit and take your calls. So be sure to tune in for that next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And for a list of all of our upcoming guests, be sure to visit hamtalklive.com. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.
Well, you came right back to my CQ call. Your readability 5 and strength 9. You never once mentioned your weather at all, and I didn't mention mine. We talked and talked for hours and hours, like we completely forgot you're a ham. I don't know your power or the height of your tower, and frankly